Today, Rich has given his 10th speech in our Toastmasters group on his way to getting his CC. Rich has personally come a long way since joining Toastmasters. He brought a guest today in hopes of inspiring just one person, but hopes you will be inspired with his story as well. Please welcome Rich Fischer with his speech titled, "What Was That?"
Okay, what was that? Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. I was 19 years old, working for an Italian tile manufacturer here in Phoenix as a sales rep. I'd been there about a year. I had a reputation for being a hard worker. As a matter of fact, I was such a hard worker that our manager in San Diego quit. The company actually came to me and asked if I would take over in San Diego as branch manager. Me, at 19 years old, would I take over? The youngest guy in the company. I went back home to my then pregnant wife and said, San Diego, California, you know, July 4th, 72 degrees and sunny. And then also, December 25th, 72 degrees and sunny. We weighed that. We decided to take the position in California. I went to California. I worked hard in California. Some months went by. One of my customers from Phoenix calls me up on the phone. Says, "Hey Rich, I'm leaving my position at a company here in Phoenix." At the time, this was the largest tile installation company in Phoenix. He said, "Immediately, your thought came up in my head, would you be interested?" I went home. I talked to my wife. I said, "Would you be interested in moving back to Phoenix?" She said, "Yeah, we have friends, there's some family there." We decided to go ahead and give it a shot. I called him back and said, "Yeah, you know what, I am interested in taking this position back in Phoenix." He said, "Great, I'm going to get you some airline tickets and fly you over." I get on the plane, I'm in the cab, I didn't prepare anything. I thought this was just a formality. I'm going to go meet the owner, he's going to show me my really cool new desk, he's going to introduce me to the people I'm going to work with, he's going to tell me about all this money I'm going to make. And boy, was I wrong. I get led upstairs to this huge penthouse office. The entire office had couches all the way around it. There were 8 people with the heads of each department sitting in those couches. And it was behind the owner's desk, which was the biggest, lint-free, clutter-free desk I'd ever seen. The chair they had invited me to sit down at, I'm sure they stole from the 3rd grade class, because it was this high off the ground. The top of his desk came to about here on my forehead. I sat down. The room was silent. All I could hear was my heart beating in my throat. Finally, the owner of the company leaned over the desk. "Okay, tell us about yourself." And that's when it happened. My first panic anxiety attack. It felt like my tongue was the size of my left foot. And my mouth was so dry, I thought it was actually stuck on my left foot. And what came out of my mouth at that point was this. "Could I get some water?" One of the guys on the couch, mumbling under his breath, goes out, brings me back a glass of water. I drank enough sips to detach my tongue from my foot and gave myself enough time to tell him my name, where I worked, and how long I worked there. It took maybe 30 seconds of my time to tell him that. He sat there in anticipation of what else I was going to say. I had nothing. Finally, he leaned over the desk and said, "Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions?" No, of course I didn't. I wanted to run. I wanted to die. I left that office, got in a cab, was flying back to California. All I could think of was, okay, what was that? I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I went back to San Diego. I continued my hard work. That's what I did. I did hard work. Months go by. Another company in Connecticut gives me a call. Says, "Hey, I hear great things about you. We have a position opening up in our Chicago location to run Chicago and Indiana. Would you be interested?" I went back and I talked to my wife. We were both from the Midwest. We had family back there. Reluctantly, I called the guy back and said, "You know what, yes, I am interested." And so we set a meeting time for when he would be in California to sit down and have lunch and interview again. But this time, I prepared myself before the interview. I sat down days before the interview. I wrote down every question I thought this guy could possibly ask me, and I wrote out my answers. And then I wrote down every question I thought I would ask this guy about his company. I researched his products, I researched the company, I asked my current clients about what they thought of his products so I would get more information. When I went to the interview finally to meet him for lunch, I go in with my notepad in hand and I'm ready. We sat down, he asked me questions for a good half an hour. And when he got done, he had a huge smile on his face and says, "Wow, that's great. Do you have any questions for me?" Absolutely do. I questioned him for about as long as he questioned me. I got that job in Chicago. The best job I'd ever had in my life. I was 22 years old, making a six-figure income in the late 80s. Unbelievable. There was a big problem. My big problem was the monkey on my back of public speaking. 70% of this job required I do presentations to architects, to designers, to big distribution companies. I could have wrote a book on how to use an excuse to get out of doing presentations. I could not do presentations. I did a few and failed miserably at them. I quit that job. I quit the best job I ever had in my life because of my fear of public speaking. I actually went back to setting tile on my hands and my knees and back-breaking work to avoid public speaking. Now, I got back in the industry in different positions only because of my hard work ethic. And I managed to move up and up and up in companies until I got to that level where I had to get up and start doing presentations in front of people. And I would find my way looking for something else so I could avoid the public speaking portion of the business. Until 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I finally joined this Toastmasters. Boy, I wish I would have joined a Toastmasters when I was young. But I had to. I had been with a company for 4 years. I'd gone through my book of excuses. I was at a point where I was going to have to do public speaking. This group helped me enormously. I ended up quitting that job for other reasons besides that. But I also found another passion, which is getting up in front of people and teaching painting. Whether it's the passion, I know it's part of the passion, but I know it's also this Toastmaster group that has helped me out. I believe that every Toastmaster I've ever met to this point, deep down inside, is a competitor like I am, and that's what drives us to come here. We have a competition in us that won't, we're our own adversary at times, and we are our own toughest competitor. My call to action to everybody is to always, yes, get people to come to Toastmasters. It's important, and we love to watch people grow. I've watched Katrina, you've gone amazing. Sean has been amazing, growing in their speaking abilities. But my biggest call to action is these young people today that are stuck on their little devices and their communication in the way that they don't have to do face-to-face communication. Had somebody nudged me a little bit when I was younger to join a Toastmasters, I could have had the world at my feet because I was a hard worker and I was a competitor. I lacked one skill. Almost all of the successful people I know in the world today, and this is my observation, most of those successful people have an ability to get up in front of people. They might not be the best speaker, they might use ums, ahs, horrible cliches, but they have the ability to get up and to communicate. And I think without that, you're going to live with the pain that I've lived with because I didn't have the opportunity to get pushed into a group like this to help me get past that. And that's what I want to inspire all of you. Look at your friends, your children's friends, younger generation people. That's why I asked my daughter here today. I want her to join Toastmasters. Not this Toastmasters. If you want to go on and do your own thing, I know you're moving out soon. I'm going to be sad when she leaves. But in your area, join a group. You are so smart, and you are so competitive, and you are so intelligent. I believe a little bit of a nudge is going to take you a long, long way. Mr. Table, a Toastmaster.